Hey YouTube, I'm Zloth, and I'll be showing you how to solo boss with PTR-Chen, patch 46.0. Along the way, I'll be giving insight onto Chen's reworked kit. If you're just interested in the boss solos, I'll include times in this video's description. We'll be using PTR-Chen's auto attack build because I believe it will be the best and potentially only build used on live. Chen can solo boss at 13 and 16, and although I have not tested it, he may be able to solo boss at level 7 as well. I've had success with two different approaches using this build, and both accomplish different things. First, we'll briefly be covering the auto attack build. At level 1 is Eye of the Tiger. This talent doesn't help you solo the boss, but it provides the highest and most reliable healing of Chen's level 1 talents. I'll add a link in the description below explaining why this is. At level 4, we'll take Accumulating Flame because it provides increased damage output. Although the talent lists it only works against heroes, in-game it also works against minions, mercenaries, and structures. I do not know if this is a bug or typo, but it helps burn the boss down faster. At level 7, we'll be taking Elusive Brawler. This talent is key to soloing the boss, and will be shown why later. The ult doesn't matter for soloing boss, you will not need it. At level 13, we'll be taking Ring of Fire for the additional damage output. And at level 16, we'll be taking Combo Strikes for the increased attack speed, extra damage, and synergy with Accumulating Flames and Elusive Brawler. The goal for defeating the boss using this build was to have most of my health by the end. There's another video using a different build that does this that I will link in the description. This is one of my earlier attempts at level 16 where I end up defeating the boss but lose most of my health. As you can see early on, I end up making a mistake and burning my Q cooldown and end up getting rooted. Throughout this fight, I also ended up learning a lot about stagger timings. For example, you do not want to stagger while you are casting Fortifying Brew. This is because by the time stagger kicks in, your Fortifying Brew will more than likely be over, and you'll end up taking most of that damage to your health instead of negating it with the shield. It's also important to talk about why this works. If you look in the top left corner, it'll actually list the boss's stats that I'm fighting, and you can see that its attack damage is 314.2 and its attack speed is 1. If you look at Chen's Fortifying Brew at level 16, you'll see that he gains more shields than the boss can deal damage per second. Now, I accomplished this in try mode where the boss's power scales based on my level, but the applications in an actual match are a little bit different, and I'll talk about that a bit later. This is my first success of actually defeating the boss and having more than 50% of my health remaining. As you can see, it's taking place at level 17 because I had defeated the boss a few times and I forgot to reset my level. However, because of the boss scaling, you should be able to accomplish this at 16 as well. In this clip, my main strategy is to keep my shield alive because it will allow me to auto-attack quickly due to the 50% increased attack speed from combo strikes, and hopefully burn down the boss faster than it can kill me. You'll see quite a few times that I actually pop stagger while I still have shield. This is because for this strategy I was trying to burn the boss down as fast as possible and put as much DPS as possible into the boss. Therefore, I wanted to preserve my shields, and I was willing to accept the damage from stagger directly to my health. I think the most important thing when soloing boss with PTR-Chen is the timings of everything. You have to be very careful about managing your cooldowns to make sure you always have a defensive option in order to protect yourself. Here you can see I'm able to defeat the boss in 60 seconds flat, and I take more than half my health and damage. However, the globe heals me back over 50%. The level 13 solo boss fight with Chen ends up playing out very similarly to the level 16 boss fight. However, you do not have the advantage of combo strikes. So you do not get the attack speed advantage that combo strikes provides. Therefore, your Elusive Brawler active ability will be on a longer cooldown and won't recharge as quickly. You'll have to be extra careful to make sure that you are doing your utmost to prevent the incoming damage. Because we are level 13 and we're missing a talent, and specifically a damage talent, it takes quite a bit longer to defeat the boss than it does at level 16. In the last clip you saw, it took us 60 seconds to defeat the boss. However, in this clip, it actually takes 111 seconds, just under 2 minutes. Unlike in the previous clip where I was trying to preserve my shield, here I'm actually trying to preserve my health. So you'll see me using Elusive Brawler to negate damage that would go to my health. My goal here is just to survive. There's not really a benefit to having extra shields because you do not have that Combo Strikes 16 talent. How would this play out in an actual match? Would you actually be able to boss in a reasonable amount of time at level 13 or 16? I think it really depends on the boss's strength at that point in the game. You're going to have to actually press C and click on the boss to check the boss's stats. If it's doing more damage than you can Fortifying Brew in a second, it's probably going to be much more difficult to solo the boss. However, if the boss is doing less damage than your Fortifying Brew, then you definitely have a chance to solo the boss. This is not an easy thing to do. It took me quite a few attempts. I think it took me around 4 hours to get even somewhat good at consistently doing this. So here I'm actually going to break down the fight in terms of what I'm thinking and what is actually going on. So you'll see I position myself towards the outer edge of the boss. This is because I want room in order to be able to fall back whenever the boss goes to slam. I begin channeling my Fortifying Brew, and I make sure to channel it for the entire duration. This is because the boss, you want the cooldown as low as possible. The boss will take out your shield in 4 hits, and you need that Fortifying Brew to be ready for the next time he comes to hit you. I'm going to drop my 2 Ws to start dealing damage and start auto-attacking. When the boss goes to slam, I take that chance to step back. If I can show you. So the boss goes to slam, I step back, and I immediately start drinking. This is to prepare myself for whenever the root comes. I'm going to hop across the boss to avoid the root, and then he's going to immediately start auto-attacking me. If everything lines up, all of his damage will go into the shields. So you'll see he slams, the root comes out, I dash across, I start dealing more damage. So right here, I pop my Elusive Brawler. You'll notice that I drank for the full duration. I jumped across. My Fortifying Brew is now on a 2-second cooldown. That is just enough time for Elusive Brawler to be able to cover that 2 seconds and allow your Fortifying Brew to recharge. So I'm going to pop my Elusive Brawler, taking minimal damage, and then all that damage is going to start going into the shields. I'll drop my W again as he begins to slam, and drop my W once more. And now he's auto-attacking me, I start drinking again. And if you notice, my Elusive Brawler is almost back up. It's about 1 second away. So as soon as that channel ends, or almost as soon as that channel ends, I'm going to have Elusive Brawler back and be able to avoid the rest of that incoming damage. So he goes to slam again, I'm going to step back and begin channeling my brew. I'm going to do my best to stay as long as possible so I can hit that max shield and take as little damage as possible. And then I'm going to Q across to avoid the root. Once again, Elusive Brawler is back up, so I was able to avoid taking damage for 2 seconds while my brew recharged, or while my brew cooldown reset. So you do see I end up taking a hit there. I think I was pressing D at the time, but it just wasn't up yet, so I ended up taking a hit. So I start drinking once again, and I actually have to move out here. And at this point, you can see that my rhythm is now sort of off. The boss was able to slam when I didn't really want him to slam, and as a result of that, I am going to start taking some damage to my health. So I took a little damage there. He was able to poke me a little bit. However, my Fortifying Brew is back up, so that should be able to cover the next 4 to 6 incoming auto attacks. And he goes to slam again, so I'm going to step back. I did pop my Elusive Brawler to avoid auto attacks, but now you see my rhythm is sort of off, and that is going to end up making me take damage to my health. So I'm going to avoid the root. So as you can see, my Fortifying Brew was a little late, and I didn't quite have my Elusive Brawler yet to be able to avoid all the damage from his auto attacks. One thing at this point you may have noticed is I have not used Stagger. This is because if I use Stagger and take that damage later, it's going to start ticking away at my shields. However, I want to maintain those shields in order to keep the attack speed. So my thinking in this fight was it is better not to use Stagger because it'll start docking my shields, and I basically want to cap out my shields at max regardless of how much damage goes to my health. So I'm back at shielding, and I'm able to actually step away. There's no root this time. I begin shielding again. You see my Elusive Brawler is right about at the cooldown I need, so yes, I will avoid that incoming attack and avoid taking damage. I begin drinking, and you see we go back into the pattern of avoiding that root and hopping across. So as you can see, I took very minimal damage from that fight. Thanks for watching my video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like, and here are 2 bonus clips showing just how lethal Chen's new auto attack build can be to both structures and mercenaries.